What's going on, guys? Welcome to another edition of the It Doesn't Matter podcast. I'm your host. I'm the notorious one. I am Dom. Today, I'm here with my boys. I got John Strapfax Lee and up in the left-hand corner. Might not look like that in the camera, but it doesn't matter. I got the Dominican Dream. Got the son of a Dominican farmer. I got Papi Platano. Yep. And I got my man all the way from Delaware. I got BDC. What's going on, fellas? How y'all doing?
Hanging in this Friday, brother.
Yeah, struggling, baby, but we gonna make it out of here.
Yes, we're
Calm before the ice storm.
We're gonna make it. This episode right here, we're gonna talk about Ric Flair, his time in the WWF, his first run, 1991 all the way to 1993, and we're gonna kick it off right now. So Ric Flair, he signed with the WWF in August of 1991. At the time, he was the real world champion. He had the WCW big gold belt. Bobby the Brain Heenan, he was the hype man, hyping up Ric Flair that he was going to come to the company while, he was still under contract of the other channel, World Championship Wrestling at the time. But, he had some disagreements. But he finally, made his way. What was it? Primetime Wrestling Challenge, one of them old 90s shows. That's not on the network, Peacock, whatever. And, Bobby the Brain Heenan has the title, and we see Gorilla Monsoon looking at the title. So that's not Hogan's belt. That was pretty funny, just seeing that right there. And Bobby just hyping up the title. And, yeah, Flair made his debut in Primetime Wrestling in September, claiming that he's the real World Heavyweight Champion. He calls out Ric Flair. He calls out Hogan. He calls out Roddy Piper. And basically just said, this is the match we all wanted, everybody wanted, but Hulk Hogan, he's yellow, always running. And you would think we were going to finally get this match, but we'll get to that a little later. So, BDC, I'm going to start with you. You're a little older than us. What was your take on Ric Flair joining the company?
At the time, it was a major move. It was a major shift because at the time, Ric Flair, like you said, Ric Flair was champ. He carried the big gold. He already established himself by that point. He multi-time world champion over there in NWA and WCW. And, at the time when he came... freshly squeezed, eh? At the time when he came, no one really thought about the fact that Heenan had the title. He had the big gold belt. You didn't really think about it. It's like if people knew WCW, it's like, oh, well, clearly that's the title, but why does he have it on WWF programming? And had to do a little digging to find out why that was, because, again, back then, I'm not thinking about that. But apparently, back in those days, late 80s, and such, when you won a championship, you paid a certain amount of money to hold the title. When you lose the title, you get your money back. Well, Ric Flair got let go from WCW, and they didn't give him his money back. They told him to basically go screw himself. So he said, nope, screw me, nope, screw you. Proceed to take the title over to WWF. And held on to that title there for a minute until finally, I think WCW got an injunction to stop him from using it. And blurted out for a while, and then eventually it was gone.
So BDC, when he took that title to WWF, was he still, quote unquote, the WCW champion, or did he lose the belt and then he just didn't hand the belt over?
He never, from what I read, he never lost the title. I don't know what caused him to be let go from WCW. He didn't just walk out on his own. From how I read that he got let go from WCW.
I think it was the guy running it. I think it was Jim Ross's boy. What the hell's his name?
Hurd.
No, not
Jim Hurd running that show.
No, Jim Hurd. It was Jim Hurd because Ric Flair wanted his money back, and Jim Hurd told him no. So that's how the title ended up over in WWF, because technically it was still Ric Flair's until he got his money back.
Okay.
And that was part of the injunction, was they actually had to pay. They actually did pay him. So once they paid him his money, then the title disappeared from TV.
Okay.
Yes, John. What are your thoughts seeing Ric Flair in the WWF at this time? I know you started a few years later, but going back, rewinding, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, it's a tough period. That's why we're talking about it now, so we can learn more about it. But yeah, Ric Flair was the WCW, or whatever they wanted to call it, the world champion at the time. He was supposed to drop it to the total package, Lex Luger at the Great American Bash, and he was calling someone's bluff. Flair was like, "I'll drop it to Luger. I don't care." But you got to give me my deposit with interest. Don't forget about the interest. Yeah. And Jim Herd was not willing to do that. He's just like, "You're gonna do what I'm gonna tell you. You're gonna drop it, well, when you're supposed to." And that didn't happen. It ended up being Lex Luger and Barry Windham fighting for a title that they did wide shots on, so you can't actually see what the belt is, for the Great American Bash 91. So that's about that time, about June. And so, that coincides with Flair being in dispute to the fall of 91. But yeah, it was, I imagine it'd be a big moment. And just, like I said, that period is fuzzy for me. And I also wondered why Ric Flair did not headline Mania with Hogan. They did a series of house shows. The first one being in Oakland, I believe. Actually, the second one was in Oakland. The first one was somewhere else, like Ohio. And I believe Wade Keller of PW Torch, he, flew out to Oakland to see that first ever Hogan-Flair match. And it turns out it was the second ever Flair-Hogan match. He's very pissed off about that. And allegedly, it just didn't draw. Like, it seems like a big deal to us now. It seems like a big draw to us now, but it just didn't appeal to the crowds at that time. Wrestling was dwindling anyways at that point in time. So you just can't say, you think you have money in the bank, for lack of a better term, and It just wasn't a draw at that time. And that's why they moved on to like Sid and Hogan, but we're going a little bit ahead of ourselves. But initially when Flair came in, that was what they were gunning for, Hogan and Flair at Mania. And of course they had many, many months to go to get to that point.
Yeah.
All right, well, Flair's first TV match was on September 29th. It was on Wrestling Challenge, and he went against Jim Powers. Plotting, who the hell is Jim Powers?
I don't know.
BDC, didn't we just talk about Jim Powers on the Nitro episode not
yes,
too long
we
ago?
did. Jim Powers was he was weird in that he was mid card. He wasn't a jobber. He was a mid card guy, but he seemed to be popular. No matter where he went, whether he was in WWF or he was in WCW, he seemed to be a popular guy. It's just that he never really made it to anything higher than, I would say, upper mid card. Like, I think he's had a couple of he had a tag title reign. I don't remember if he had ever held a singles tag championship. And like I said, the dude was fairly popular. It's just, for whatever reason, maybe size and what have you, he just never made the cut to really advance into a bigger picture than upper mid card at best.
I love Jim Powers only because he was one of the guys that was always on WCW Saturday Night, WCW Pro, WCW Main Event. He was on all of those 1 hour shows back in 1996 when, you're a sponge watching wrestling. He was just, this is when he was in WCW. I can't, I'm not going to hum his music, but if you could find his music from that era of him being a jobber in 96, I enjoyed it very much. Yeah, but of course, he was jobbing out here. The Greek god Jim Powers, a waiter at Ocean Pizza of New London.
One who's always in Planet Fitness.
The Golden God. I think he teamed up with Paul Roma for a time. Weren't they the Young Stallions or something like that? I don't know.
I don't know.
Yeah.
That sounds familiar.
Accurate.
Maybe that's
Accurate.
Yeah, and in WCW, he teamed up with the no longer Ultimate Warrior style Renegade and Joe Gomez. They were quite a trifecta in the summer of 1996 WCW Nitro, which you'll come across in a few months, guys. But yeah, Jim Powers, perennial jobber, but a famous jobber, and a lot of people are fans of those kind of jobbers back in the the Dwayne Gills, if you will.
yeah.
But obviously, in real life, he's a good hand, a perfect first opponent just to get the feels out from Ric Flair transitioning from the NWA style to the WWF style. So there we go. I mean, I didn't see that Jim Powers match. I saw one of his earlier matches with Jim Neidhart, but I didn't see the Jim Powers one.
Was there another match that maybe Jim Powers had that I might have jogged my memory just because, I don't know, maybe I wasn't watching as thoroughly at that time because I was still like so young at that time. It was more like Razor and those big name characters that I focused on. Was there like a certain match that maybe that'll just jog my memory with them?
No.
All right. Say less.
I can't think about not one Jim Powers match, so.
That's why when you ask me,
might
I'm
be
like,
better.
oh.
You might be better served looking up the young stallions and looking at them do tag work. You might be better served doing that.
See, I love tag team wrestling.
Because I think that was when he had his most success was as a tag team wrestler. He had very little as a singles competitor.
Okay.
Homeboy probably couldn't talk with shit. Probably had an accent thicker than a Chicago deep dish pizza. Something you will not find at Ocean Pizza of New London.
All right, guys, let's talk about the Survivor Series 1991. Everyone knows what happened. Everybody knows the outcome. You know what Flair does. He causes Hogan the title.
Did he?
To the Undertaker. But Flair, he had his first PLE, pay-per-view match, whatever you want to call it. And he was in a traditional Survivor Series tag match, and I did not know. I haven't watched this whole show. I just know the Hogan thing. But Flair teamed with the Mountie, Ted DiBiase, and the Warlord, and he took on Roddy Piper, Bret Hitman Hart, Virgil, and the British Bulldog. And obviously, Team Flair wins.
Can you imagine that in a thunder cage?
Wait, hold up. So you got, say Roddy?
Yeah, Roddy Piper, Bret the Hitman Hart, Virgil, and the British Bulldog.
Versus 3 Hall of Famers.
Yep.
And a Butler.
Ric Flair, the Mountie, Ted DiBiase, and the Warlord.
I mean, that sounds really appealing to me.
It does. Like, I want to go back and watch this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For that day and time, that. Oof.
Obviously overshadowed by other events, but holy smokes! That's,
and think about the fact that in that match, Bret Hart was really the young gun because he was just starting to get his feet wet as a singles competitor.
Yeah. So he was just about to win the Intercontinental belt soon.
Yep.
And then he would drop it to Bulldog in the next summer in '92, which would be one of the greatest, probably one of the greatest endings to any match I've ever seen. Bret is, it's not, I know this is not a Bret thing, but again, that's why he's my GOAT.
No, that Wembley match was something special.
Yeah. But all right, well, the main event that night was Hogan and Undertaker, and Ric Flair, intervened. He slid the chair in. Undertaker tombstone Hogan. 1, 2, 3. Taker is your champion. His first reign. And then a few days later, there's a rematch. And then we get this Tuesday in Texas. And guys, we covered this. Not too long ago. Yeah. And Ric Flair intervened again, but this time Hogan got the win.
Yep.
And a few days later after this, Jack Tunney, he vacated the title after 2 interferences by the Nature Boy Ric Flair. So that means this is going to take us to the Royal Rumble 1992. The main event match, the Royal Rumble match, and it's going to be for your title. And Ric Flair, he enters number 1. Was he number 1?
3.
Number 3? He was number 3. He lasted 60 minutes, and he became your new WWF champion. And he eliminated Sid Justice because Hulk Hogan intervened.
Yep.
And there you go.
Even in the Rumble, he was a 60-minute man. It's crazy, man.
So
that's nuts.
Yeah. So just imagine, if you will, that Yeah, two titles change hands because one guy interfered twice, and the decision was, well, let's vacate the title completely because neither one of them, I guess, earned it legally. We'll throw it in the Royal Rumble, and then the guy who caused the interference both times is the one who wins the championship.
Crazy.
Yeah, that sounds about right. That sounds like justice, and not Sid Justice, just justice.
R.I.P. Sid.
I love you, Sid. And
Indeed.
Strap, any thoughts on Rumble 92? The greatest Rumble of all time?
Which was more star-studded, this past year's Rumble or this 1992's Rumble? It's really, really hard to say.
what was more shocking? That's the real answer.
Well, yeah, Jay, this year, more shocking, I would say. More lucrative for me.
I love it.
Year's.
Get your code from DraftKings. Code StrapFacts.
As, you know, I come up with lots of things myself, but not everything. And one of those not everythings was someone else saying, you know, if you're just having a party, you're having people over, and you just want to put something on the TV, you could put on Royal Rumble 92 because no matter what age of wrestling fan you were at one time in your life, you might recognize someone in this Royal Rumble. You know, it could be like, oh my God, the British Bulldog, what the hell, you know, or Ric Flair, Roddy Piper, Macho Man, Jake the Snake. It's
Hogan, Sid.
Hogan.
Yeah, it is a who's who of who was in the match.
That's right. So a very great Royal Rumble, worthy of rewatch as many times as you want in your life.
Yeah.
And not just the action in the ring, but the commentary too. So much so is included on Bobby Heenan, manager Bobby Heenan's DVD, the whole Royal Rumble 92 match. Oh yeah, like Ted DiBiase, he was like 1 or 2, and he got eliminated pretty handily. But yeah, it was a great match and a great moment for Ric Flair with one of the greatest promos of all time. After the match, who wants to do it?
With a
tear in my eye. This is the greatest moment in my life.
Woo!
Whenever he's mad at Charlotte, he sends her that clip.
Put that cigarette out. Oh, just kidding.
I love. That's a great line. Use it every day in your life, please. If you're just picking up the phone and like, put that cigarette out. Hi, how's it going? It's like, well, who are you talking to? I thought you were in your office. Yeah, I am.
You know, I did not know that was the same interview. Was it in the same interview?
I didn't know that.
I think it was around the same time. He goes, put that cigarette out.
Sherry, calm down.
R.I.P. Mean Gene.
The me Okerlund position.
Yep.
I could be completely wrong. Fans, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it's around that time. If not, it's around Survivor Series.
Damn it, the set's falling apart.
Oh, jeez.
Who put that there?
I love the bloopers. Oh, shit. Gotta do it again.
All right, well, after this, we're on the road to WrestleMania 8, and Ric Flair, he started feuding with Macho Man Randy Savage, and he has some tea. He's claiming that he had a relationship with Miss Elizabeth, and he has some naughty photos, and he's going to expose her.
Ooh.
WrestleMania 8 takes place in the Hoosier Dome, Indianapolis, and we have Macho Man Randy Savage taking on the champ, the Nature Boy Ric Flair. Woo! And the Macho Man, he won the title. What do you guys think about this match?
That was crazy to think about that.
Should have exposed the pictures.
Yeah. Oh, man. To do all that at the Rumble and then to drop the belt, it's just like, why? What was the point of that? I don't know. I was so confused at that point, and I was like, just going back, I'm like, what was the point of that run?
Very short-lived.
Yeah, I think I think that Rick, for the time he was there, especially his first title reign, probably should have went longer. But I do also think that probably somewhere along the line, people thought about it. It's like, yeah, well, we did kind of give it to him in a real jacked up way. So maybe we don't want to submit this one as the long one because he did kind of get it in a real fucked up fashion. And realistically, I'm not sure if maybe they knew behind the scenes how long he'd actually be there, or maybe they had some sort of uncertainty as about exactly how long he would actually be there. So maybe that's why they did it. I don't know. I mean, at that point, Macho Man wasn't long for the company either. So I mean, I don't know.
I mean, the only thing I'm assuming is because remember John was talking about how his draw with Hogan didn't go the way they thought it would be. Maybe when he got the belt, the drawing wasn't what they thought it was going to be. Maybe they expected because he was the NWA champion. Maybe that would bring up some ticket sales or even like the merch would go up. But maybe they weren't drawing what they were, and unfortunately, it wasn't just Rick's fault. It was all over wrestling. Like John was saying, was in a downward spiral, and it wouldn't go up for a while. So maybe they blamed Rick because normally when someone's a champion, you're expecting something to go up. Like you want your company should be going up somewhat, but maybe it was at a steady plateau, or maybe started going down, and they went back to what they know best, and that's Macho Man.
Yeah, I think the crazy part of it, and this might just be a me thing, is that when you really look back at that point, it was kind of like it was still territory wrestling, even though territories were starting to kind of slowly die off.
There's pretty much nothing left if you think about it.
So I mean, even though WCW and NWA had an audience of sort because they did run TBS ad nauseum, TBS was a cable network back at that point, back at that time. They weren't on network TV. You didn't have a lot of people who really, outside of wrestling, who really knew who Ric Flair was. So if you go into a show and you see this guy who looks like he's older than everybody else, wrestling, you don't know what his history is or anything like that, or you just figure what it is based on what they try to feed you on WWF. You may not get that reaction like you would say now. If Ric Flair was in his prime now and he made that jump, everybody knows everything about wrestling. He would get that huge pop now that he didn't get back in the 90s.
That's true.
Yeah, I agree. Do you guys remember that press conference? I know John remember that shit. They're trying to figure out who's going to be Flair's opponent for WrestleMania. You see Hogan sitting there like this. The Undertaker's straight face. You see Sid like geeking out. You see who else is it? Roddy Piper sitting there, and then they announce it's gonna be Macho Man, and Sid goes crazy.
Was that the is that what he started to turn from Sid Justice to back to Sid Vicious?
Yeah.
Don't call me psycho.
Yeah, I remember it was a press conference that initiated his heel turn.
That's what happened.
And it's sad to say, I think if it wasn't for the softball, he'd probably be regarded as one of the greatest of that era, if not top tier, top 5 at that time. He had it all. 6'8", 6'9", body like that.
Yeah.
Crazy charisma.
Yep.
And when he wanted to go to work, he could work.
Oh, yeah.
So.
Yeah.
All right, well, Macho Man, he wins the title from Ric Flair, WrestleMania 8. And we find out, though, the pictures were fake. They were Photoshopped before. It was even Photoshopped.
Yeah.
It was actual photos of of Macho Man and Elizabeth, and Rick just, happened to just put his picture over Macho Man's body. That's about it. But before we get off WrestleMania 8,
whole lot of tape.
What are your thoughts on WrestleMania 8? Did you guys enjoy WrestleMania 8? I was not a big fan of that. That's like one of my least favorites.
It's hard to even recall that, so you got to throw that in the bucket for now. Nothing's really memorable.
I'll be the first to tell you I don't remember it all.
Brett and Piper, Intercontinental title.
Okay, I remember that.
Shawn and the Matador.
Nope.
Jake
Chico
and
Santana, as Bobby Heenan will call him.
Jake and the Undertaker.
Ooh.
That was actually
Taker's-
pretty good. That was pretty good.
That was Taker's face turn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was Taker's face turn.
You got Flair and Savage, and you got Hogan and Sid.
And that was the main event.
Yeah, that was the main event.
Any other era, they're like, oh no, the champion's got to go last. Nope. Hogan must pose.
That's John Cena spot right there.
Oh boy, that's gonna be controversial this year. That might cause some controversy.
Hey, look, we got Elimination Chamber approaching. You got qualifying matches, and Cena's already in. He ain't got to qualify.
Man.
I'm in.
What are the chances? What are the chances of a Cena heel turn before this year is out?
Nah.
No.
Nah.
Especially if he continues to lose opportunities getting into the title picture.
Absolutely not. It's his farewell tour. I don't see him going heel. I mean, if you're Vegas, I might want to not bet the house on that. But hey, if the turnaround is going to be very astronomical. DraftKings, how much you put in bets that John Cena's going heel this year?
Long enough to get his championship.
Promo code StratFacts. I'm gonna get us a sponsor this year.
It's gonna happen. It's gonna happen.
Lawsuit.
All right, now we're on the road to SummerSlam, and the Macho Man, he is your champion, and at this time, he is partnering up with the Ultimate Warrior, and these two fools are called the Ultimate Maniacs.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And Ric Flair, he has an ally. He has Mr. Perfect in his corner, and a young Razor Ramon, and they're just trying to take out the Ultimate Maniacs. So while this whole debacle is taking place, Savage gets injured, and Flair, he regained the title. He regained the title on the September 14th episode of Primetime Wrestling due to interference. But Flair got the title, and there you go. He got his second reign right there. After this, he drops the title at a house show to Bret Hart.
Wow.
That's crazy.
Crazy.
Not pay per
That's
view,
crazy.
not anything. A house show.
So he had that about a month, if anything.
The second reign?
The second reign. He won
you
in September.
serious?
He won in September. He dropped it to Bret in October.
What? I thought he dropped the belt in like '93.
Yo.
Nope.
God.
Wow.
That's horrible.
Yeah. Very short lived.
But I think at that time, he saw the writing on the wall that they were going younger, and he said, "Hey Vince, just let me go." So I guess they probably just said, "All right, let's make this guy at least."
Yeah, he had in his contract that if you feel like if he's going to drop down, if he's not in the main event picture, he can ask for his release and he'll get granted. But we'll talk about that in a little bit because we're going to take it to Survivor Series 1992, another show that we covered not too long ago. Mm-hmm. And this time we have the Nature Boy Ric Flair and Razor Ramon taking on Macho Man and Mr. Perfect. And you know what happened with Mr. Perfect? He had the London, Lloyd's of London, whatever.
Yep.
So this is his first match back in, what, at the time, 2 years, I want to say? Something like that.
Yeah.
Something like that. But Savage and Perfect, they got the win. And, yeah, Rick, he just losing and losing. After this takes place, he's still feuding with Mr. Perfect. Now we entered 1993, the Royal Rumble. You really don't hear nothing about that, but the person that eliminated Ric Flair from the Royal Rumble was Mr. Perfect.
Mr. Perfect.
So, like you mentioned, he asked for his release. So Vince granted his release. The only stipulation he had to do was to put a talent over. So, the next night after the Royal Rumble 1993 on Monday Night Raw, we have a loser leaves town match between Mr. Perfect and the Nature Boy Ric Flair. And, well,
Perfect won.
Perfect won. And that was it for Ric Flair. We didn't see Ric Flair until 2001 back in the WWF. Now, do you guys think...
Was it 2001 or 2002? After the invasion angle?
John?
Very late 2001.
Okay.
There you
Because when Shane and Stephanie sold to the consortium was
Ric Flair.
me.
You and me, Vince, we're partners.
Yeah, so
Oh, I love this. I love we're all about that.
Very good job, Dom. But you see, your research goes about as well as mine did for a period of time. So, well, yeah, there's large gaps, and there's still lots to wonder about Ric Flair's first WWF run, including a large period of time from WrestleMania, which is around April, all the way to SummerSlam. So, the Macho Man, Ric Flair held the title from the Rumble to Mania, so to say that's about 2 months to 3 and some change maybe. Excuse me. And Macho Man would hold the title from, April to May, June, July, August, September. It's about 5 months. Ric Flair would hold it for a month, drop it to the Hitman in Saskatoon, I believe. Then the Hitman would carry out the rest of the year.
Yep.
But, there was no pay-per-views. There's no King of the Ring at that time. There's no stopgap between Mania and SummerSlam, so there's a lot to be lost there. Yeah, so how do you, as a fan, doing your own research and your own homework, how do you fill in those gaps? Because they're not doing it for you. I mean, they used to, the WWE Network, they used to, I can't even remember now, but it used to go by year almost. Like, it would go sequentially, and it'd be easier in a way. Now you can't find anything, so good luck. But one thing you can use as a resource is the WWF Superstars from 1992, and I enjoyed trying to watch some of those. Those were just hour-long episodes, and they would contain random things. They would, it's like, Virgil didn't get much of a push, even though he just turned babyface. But at that time, no one knew that. They still gave him a chance. So you'd see Virgil coming out there and having his jobber match, whether he was the jobber or he was fighting a jobber. A lot of other lost gems, if you can call them that. Sergeant Slaughter, post-Iraqi war. Face again, Sergeant Slaughter. He faced Ric Flair on a few of these Superstar
I want
shows.
my country back.
And lest we forget, the Ultimate Warrior returning at WrestleMania in the Hoosier Dome. He came back and started feuding with Papa Shango during the Superstars tapings.
Oh yeah, the black ooze.
That was so stupid.
The Black Ooze promo.
Yeah. So, you had Ric Flair, and especially it was a big house show circuit. So you had Ric Flair and the Ultimate Warrior doing loops. I mean, you can't, I tried on YouTube. There's some house show footage of one match between Warrior and Flair, at least, and it was not that great. And allegedly, Warrior clotheslined him something fierce and gave him a sense of vertigo or something like that, a ringing in his ear, which is why when he beat Macho for the title, Macho was in worse shape than Ric Flair. But so, these are men, athletes of the time, Iron Men, if you will. So, as the booking plans go, Ric Flair gets the title, but it's like, Vince, woo, I can't hold the belt. I got to drop it. Well, lucky Brett, lucky the Hitman Brett. He came to the picture. They had a less than stellar match, in Brett's opinion, and that match is available on one of the Coliseum home releases. But earlier, also throughout this time, Ric Flair, what I found fascinating was Ric Flair and Roddy Piper. They were a tag team in the NWA way back in the 80s, tearing it up, and just two guys, best friends having fun, in the NWA. Years later, it's the WWF. Ric Flair is the WWF champion. Roddy Piper is the Intercontinental champion at the same time. I just thought that was really cool for the both of them, especially years later when they became tag team champions together.
Yeah.
at Cyber Sunday or Taboo Tuesday.
That was terrible. Beat the Spirit Squad.
And they had a great dance off at the end of the match.
Woo!
But to fill in the gap between Mania and SummerSlam, you got to watch those WWF Superstars. And like I said, you skip through it. Don't watch everything. I hate the Beverly Brothers. God damn it, they're all over the damn show.
Bo and Blake.
F those guys. Sorry, you like the Bushwhackers, Ray? You like the Bushwhackers? Well, F the Bushwhackers too. But you can find matches with the Legion of Doom throughout there, or the Nasty Boys if that's your jam. You can find these, and Bret Hart would have title defenses on these Superstars episodes. So if you want to fill in the gaps, not just for Ric Flair, but for WWF between Mania and SummerSlam, watch Superstars, and throughout the rest of the year. And then some, British Bulldog appearances before he left again. But yeah, that's what you can do. That's an old-fashioned research. And actually, for SummerSlam, Ric Flair, he interfered in the main event, or the world title match of SummerSlam 92, which was Warrior and Randy Savage in a rematch, WrestleMania rematch. It was not a good match. But Ric Flair interfered in that.
Why wasn't he on that card? SummerSlam 92?
It was just one of those deals where they chose, like the press conference. We'll choose our number one contender, and that's a Warrior, not Flair or whatever.
Oh.
Damn.
But, excuse me, they did have like a USA Network special, I think before or after SummerSlam. And it's one of the matches I watched on YouTube. This is Ric Flair versus Tito Santana in a 19-minute classic. I use that term loosely. But
was Santana in his Matador gear or in his Strike Force gear?
He was the El Matador.
Oh.
And so
No bueno.
Hey, to Tito's credit, he just wasn't pushed as such. Former Intercontinental Champion here, guys, but he just wasn't pushed at that level when we watched him. But he put the figure four on Flair just to spoil the match a little bit. He put it on twice, almost won, but he didn't. But that's what Ric Flair wrestled.
You knew how that was going to go down. Ric
Flair is a main event talent, right? He's gonna fight the Sids, Warriors, Macho Man, Bret Hart, Mr. Perfect. But he also wrestled everyone else. He wrestled Sergeant Slaughter at its low point. He wrestled Jim Neidhart and Jim Powers. He wrestled Tito Santana. He wrestled a lot of lower talent on the card. He wrestled everybody, So, yeah.
Yeah, that first run deserved a lot more than it actually got.
People say his 89 run was his best run, and then this is like his best run after this, after 89.
This one?
Yeah, that's what some people
They
say.
I mean, you could say that because Ric Flair in 92 was probably the most consistent and most featured performer, because who kept coming in and out of the company at that time? Hogan wasn't there the whole time.
True.
Warrior wasn't there the whole time. Macho Man, he had his injuries here and there.
Macho was on his way out.
Yeah. So, Ric Flair, the most consistent wrestler in the WWF in 1992. And, I know they can do this. They have the power to do this when the wrestling figures come out, especially back in those days. How'd they get this Ric Flair figure out ahead of everybody? There's one Hasbro wrestling action figure. But, yes. Anyway, Smoking Guns did have the figures.
Do you think that it was the right choice to put Perfect over? Because what did Perfect do after this? After he beat Flair on Raw?
He had a match with Lex Luger at WrestleMania 9 and forgot the spots. Lex, fuck. What do we do?
He got laid out.
Mr. Perfect.
The WrestleMania 10, he was that referee. Costing Luger the title.
Oh boy.
Well, the idea was for Perfect to get back into the scene and become a baby face and a top guy, but he would get injured again, and he just wouldn't reach that level. He just would not reach that level. His high point was like 1990 and 91, but
Yeah.
he wouldn't
Back
make
when
it.
he was, back when
unfortunately.
he was smacking, back when he was smacking the gum that dropped out of his mouth.
Shoot. when he had Bobby Heenan friggin' catching the friggin' towel, just like, oh, just like he's perfect too. Like, oh God.
When he was throwing himself passes.
Perfect was perfect.
Hey man, when you get paid to sit on your ass, I mean, a lot of people are gonna do that.
Yeah.
Oh, see. Oh, Spice.
I'm a horse.
Oh man. Well, this definitely was a good episode. I enjoyed reliving Ric Flair 1991 to 1993.
It feels depressing to me, man. I mean, I feel like there's better years than Ric Flair. I felt like he was wasted this first time around.
Mm-hmm.
There was some good high points, but there was a lot missing to the table, man. He wasn't utilized the way he should have been. Maybe Vince didn't see what he would become or what he was, but when he'd go back to WCW, he'd be back to the same Ric Flair, and he'd be on top again. So,
Yeah, I think it was just it. Like you said, it was just a bad time for wrestling overall at that point.
now, I hate to interrupt. Now, was this during the steroid trial too?
Yeah, that's why Hogan was in and out.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
right there, you're so focused on all the outside stuff, you can't sit down and look and put all your effort into what's in there.
Right.
So maybe Vince was distracted with the court case, even though he says, "Hey, I'll never show him that I'm scared." But in reality, man, your mind's going everywhere. You're not really focused, so you're
Right.
not truly all in.
I'm not even gonna lie to you. I think WWE had a rough patch. They were building off of the strength of Mania. They were building off of the strength of Hogan being the champion. Hogan had that good long run as champion. But then, he faced Andre the Giant at WrestleMania 3. That was like a huge epic moment. He beat Giant at Mania. He retained the title, and then he lost it with the twin ref killing at a Saturday Night's Main Event, and it went left quick. Because then Andre the Giant won the title, and immediately he gives the title to Ted DiBiase. So now Ted DiBiase's champion, and then they vacated, and it became a whole mess, and it took them a while to recover from that. So, and then you have everything else that's going on with that. I really just think at that point WWF was a ship without a rudder. Didn't really know which direction it was really trying to go at that point.
I think they were very disappointed with the Warrior turnout because they were expecting one thing. They were basically saying, "Hey, passing the torch," and
Yeah,
he dropped the baton. Well, there goes our race.
he didn't even drop it. He threw it to the ground. He threw it. He was like, "Here's the torch." He's like, "Ah!"
And here comes good old Hogan. I'll pick it up for ya. All right, no problem. I told you he wasn't gonna do it. Come on, you lying snake.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Jake wasn't the
that was a
snake.
really-
It should have been Hogan, the Snake Roberts.
I mean, I shudder to think what would have happened to WWE, WWF, WWE, if the Monday Night Wars don't start.
Oh,
Because they brought in Raw, they brought up Raw, and Raw was okay, but they were still kind of reveling. They were still kind of reeling from everything that had happened prior. They were trying to gain some type of momentum, and then it kind of was like WCW comes up with Nitro, which Nitro in and of itself wasn't anything spectacular. But, then NWO, and then WWE decides, let's start really working with the actual guys that are technically sound, not necessarily looking at the big muscle-bound guys who have 5 moves. And, that was kind of like the with the Attitude Era, all that other fun stuff, that became the golden era of wrestling. And imagine if that doesn't happen.
Yeah, we might have to do like a crossover between WCW Nitro right when the NWO invades and WWE Raw to see where the change kind of goes over, where they're like, oh, we're falling behind the times. We got to catch up. That might be something to look into down the road.
Yeah, because, I mean, literally Nitro was beating the brakes off of Raw week after week for a while.
Yeah.
And, I mean, of course they say legend has it, is that the night that Eric Bischoff spoiled that Mankind would win the WWF title is the night that the Monday Night Wars came to an end, because at that point everyone turned to Monday Night Raw to see Mankind win the title. And it basically killed everything that WCW had going for it.
Yeah. As a kid, I'm watching. I'm like, wait, you're telling me the everyday guy, the guy that looks like guys like us, we're not freaking muscle bound.
Yeah, exactly.
He's gonna win. Okay.
When he came out and he announced that he was like, oh yeah, he's like, you could turn it over there if you want to. Mankind's gonna win the title. The moment I heard that, I immediately turned. Damn the rest of Nitro. I could care less what happened on Nitro after that. At that point, I wanted to see Mankind win the title.
And Mankind had built so much trust with the fans at that time that we were like, okay, this is a guy we can back up, even if it's for a month. It wasn't like he just came into the company. Who is this guy? This guy. He busted his butt. He gave his body up. He didn't even do the Hell in a Cell just yet, too. Or was it after? Did the Hell in a Cell moment happen after this?
He already had it.
Yeah. Okay. Hell in a Cell was, I thought Hell in a Cell was 97, 98.
That was
98.
Yeah, so
98, June of 98. Yeah, so he got himself over.
Yeah, he got himself over from the risk he was willing to take. And I mean, oddly enough, people loved his three alter egos. Like, he had Mankind, which people were scared of to begin with. Then comes Dude Love, and then comes Cactus Jack, even though Cactus Jack was the first one. But he got so far over with the fans for the bumps that he took, for the risks that he took, and all the near misses that he would have.
Yeah.
That when Eric Bischoff came up and was like, oh yeah, he's gonna win the title, everybody was like, bet, and they all turned over there and left Nitro in the dust, and it basically remained like that the rest of the way. It remained like that until WCW folded.
Now, when that happened, was that the same night of the Finger Poke of Doom? Oh no, that was a different night.
That was a different night.
Nah.
But yeah, I think WCW had lost so much trust with the fans that when we saw that, we're like, you know what?
Actually, no. That was the Finger Poke of Doom. January 4th, 1999, we did cover this show. And don't turn that channel.
Oh, yeah, Hogan versus Kevin Nash.
Mick Foley, former Cactus Jack in our company. He's going to win their title. That put butts in the seats.
Yep.
It did right there.
It may not have put butts in the seats that night, but it did put eyes on at least Nelson ratings.
Yes. It literally said.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember, because like I said, what was that? You, at that point, and old as hell, but if I remember correctly, TNT was on channel 60, USA was on channel 61 on cable, and so they were back to back, so I could flip back and forth.
Yep.
And when he said that, I was watching Nitro. When he said that, I was like, oh, bet, okay, click, put the remote down and waited for it, and waited for it. And I am not alone. So many people did that. It's just like he shot himself in the foot.
And the funny thing is, when he did that, I went back to watch the replay because they had the WCW replay. And I'm like, are you serious? This was the main event? I'm like, no wonder why we clicked over.
There's like, literally one of the biggest nights the WWF had in years, and you countered that with the finger poke of doom. Good job.
Yeah, you literally lost a whole bunch of fans by doing that. You don't do that.
Yeah.
You don't promise the world and then underdeliver.
But if you really think about Nitro, they did that a lot before NWO, and every now and then they threw a bone in there like that where you had people scratching your heads. And I mean, and it didn't help that after that you had what? You had the New Blood. You had David Arquette win the title.
Oh.
You had Vince Russo.
Bro.
Yeah.
Bro.
You had Goldberg. You had Goldberg lose the streak. You had them force Goldberg to restart the streak, and would be fired if he lost trying to maintain the streak. Freshly squeezed. And, you know, you had so much that they did that was just so much trash.
Yeah.
That it was like once that night happened, it was like, now we're the show that doesn't have a rudder.
That's what my face was when I saw that. That finger poker doom. I said, ah!
A lot of mayhem in WCW. That's all it is right there. A lot of mayhem, and me and
And
BDC,
said,
we're going to cover all that.
This is what in my mind. Delete it. Delete it. Delete it. Delete it. Delete. 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 I can't. Oh God. I know who will save us.
Just straight delete.
Peek-a-pool.
My dog.
All right, man. You gotta.
All right, well,
I'm getting mad.
that is it for the Nature Boy Ric Flair in the WWF 1991 to 1993. But next week is Strap's Choice. We're taking it to In Your House 6. I'm going to go over the card right quick. We have a crybaby match with Razor Ramon taking on the 1-2-3 Kid.
Wow.
We have Hunter Hearst Helmsley taking on Duke the Dumpster Droze.
Aye.
We have Yokozuna taking on the British Bulldog.
Ooh.
We have a number one contendership match for the WWF Championship at WrestleMania 12. We have Shawn Michaels taking on Owen Hart.
Ooh.
That's actually pretty damn good.
Yeah.
And your main event is a steel cage match for your WWF Championship. We have the Hitman, Bret Hart, taking on Big Daddy Cool Diesel.
Ooh, this is gonna be an interesting show.
I chose last week's episode too.
You did. You picked
So
two.
is that
Asian American
So
history.
hey, hold up. Wait, is fucking John?
The shortest month of the year.
Just like the blacks.
It's,
But yes.
we're gonna cancel it. It's gonna be canceled, just for now, and then we'll bring it back.
stop?
When I feel like it.
Just
Get the
stop.
quarter pounder out of your mouth.
Just stop.
And a Diet Coke.
Give it to me.
Sorry.
Use the app.
I know.
$7.
Yeah, use the app definitely.
Extra onions.
Yeah, so that is our show for next week. Well, until then, I'm Notorious One. I am Dom. I'm here with Strap Facts. I'm here with Poppy Platinum. I'm here with BDC. And we will see you next week. Boom.